Never stop reading the Bible. Today, we're diving into a story about a massive shift in power. It all comes down to one catastrophic mistake made by a king who seemed to have it all, and the, well, completely improbable rise of a shepherd boy who wasn't even on anyone's radar. These two destinies are about to collide and completely flip, and it's going to change everything.
It's a huge question, right? What is the breaking point for someone in power? What's that one misstep that can make it all unravel? We're going to see it happen right here in a single moment where the fate of an entire kingdom was sealed.
So, let's set the scene. Meet King Saul. He's the ruler of Israel, a respected military leader, and he is at the absolute peak of his game. But he's about to face a test that has nothing to do with his strength or his battle plans. Nope, this is a test of something way more basic. Can he just follow instructions?
Okay, so the command Saul gets through the prophet Samuel is intense. To put it mildly, he's told to attack a rival nation, the Amalekites, and the order is for total destruction. Everything and everyone has to go. The instructions could not have been more black and white.
And here's where it all goes wrong. The command was absolute, but Saul's actions, they were selective. He decides to spare the best of the livestock, and he captures the enemy king Agag, probably as a living trophy. See, this isn't just partial obedience, it's pure ego. Saul is basically saying, yeah, I hear you, but I've got a better idea. He's editing the command to fit his version of a victory.
Well, an act of defiance like that, a direct rejection of a clear order, that's not going to go unnoticed. The fallout was immediate and it was harsh, and it came in a face-to-face confrontation with the very same prophet who had made him king in the first place, Samuel.
Saul's excuse is such a classic leadership blunder. He tries to justify his bad decision by spinning it into something noble. He says, "Oh, I saved the best animals to make a grand sacrifice to God." But Samuel just cuts right through all that noise with this timeless truth: to obey is better than sacrifice. The message is crystal clear. Your good intentions don't mean a thing if you've deliberately disobeyed. Following the rules matters more than putting on a big show.
And boom, just like that, the judgment comes down. It's blunt, it's final, and there's no coming back from it. Because of his pride, because he put his own judgment above a direct order, Saul's divine right to be king is gone. His reign is now officially on borrowed time.
So, as one king's world starts to crumble, a new story is secretly beginning. The prophet Samuel is told to stop mourning for Saul and to get on a new, covert mission: find the replacement. A new era is dawning, even while the old king is still sitting on the throne.
This is a game changer. It's a total shift in how leadership is even defined. See, Saul was picked because he looked the part. He was tall, he was impressive. That model clearly didn't work out. So now the hiring criteria is being completely rewritten. The new standard isn't about what's on the outside. Samuel is told point blank, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart.
The search brings Samuel to the house of a man named Jesse, and Jesse lines up his sons one by one. The first one comes out, tall, impressive, real classic candidate, looks a lot like Saul, actually. But nope, rejected. Then the second, the third, all the way through 7 sons. Each one steps up and each one is told, no, not him. All the obvious choices are the wrong choices.
At this point, Jesse is out of sons to show. But Samuel knows something isn't right. He asks, is that really everyone? Well, no, actually, there is one more. The youngest son, David. He was considered so insignificant he wasn't even called in from the fields where he was watching the sheep. And guess what? He's the one. The overlooked shepherd is the chosen king. And now, the two threads of our story, the fallen king and the rising shepherd, are about to cross in a big way. The consequences of what just happened to both of them start to play out immediately, setting these two men on an unavoidable collision course.
Just look at the difference here. At the very same time that David is anointed and filled with this new sense of divine purpose, Saul is abandoned. He becomes plagued by what the story calls a tormenting spirit. He falls into these deep depressions, paranoia, fits of rage. Their spiritual and mental paths are literally going in opposite directions.
Saul's mental state gets so bad that his servants are desperate for a solution. They come up with an idea. Maybe music could soothe him. They suggest finding a talented musician, a harp player, to keep at the court for when the king's dark moods hit.
And now for the incredible, ironic twist. Who do they find? One of the servants happens to know a gifted young musician from the house of Jesse, so David, the secretly anointed next king, is brought into the royal court to play the harp and calm the tormented soul of the very man he's destined to replace. You just can't make this stuff up.
So after all that drama, what's the big message here? What are the lessons about leadership we can pull from this story about the king and the shepherd?
Well, first, it's clear that simple obedience is valued more than some grand gesture you come up with on your own. Saul thought a big sacrifice would make up for his mistake, but he was dead wrong. Second, real leadership potential is found in someone's character, not just their resume or how they look. The search for a new king skipped right over 7 qualified candidates to find a shepherd boy with the right heart. Third, our actions have real, lasting consequences. Saul's one act of defiance literally cost him his kingdom. And finally, sometimes one person's fall is what makes another person's rise even possible. Saul's failure created the very opening that David was chosen to fill.
This whole story really forces us to look past the surface-level stuff we usually associate with leadership. You know, the charisma, the impressive track record, the perfect image. It asks us to look at the core of a person. So I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that so often celebrates the Sauls, how do we get better at spotting and lifting up the Davids? What qualities truly make a leader worth following?
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive. The story may be ancient, but the questions it raises are as relevant as ever. Thanks for joining us. The source material analysis for this explainer was provided by the Center Studio.